Go ahead, Purvi.
Namaste and greetings. I, Purvi Narayan, researcher at IMPRi, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav Evam Niti Anusandhan Sansthan, Nai Delhi. Extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRi Web Policy Talk. We are gathered today for a panel discussion on rural realities and Union Budget 2025-26. As part of IMPRI's sixth annual series of thematic deliberations and analysis of Union Budget 2025-26. This discussion is organized by the Center for Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies, CHURS, IMPRI Impact and Policy Research Institute, New Delhi, as a part of IMPRI Web Policy Talk series. I welcome all of you to this enlightening deliberation and thank you for tuning into this discussion. Now, let me introduce the esteemed gathering. Our chair for the session is Dr. J. Dennis Rajkumar, Director, Economic and Political Weekly Research Foundation, Mumbai, visiting Senior Fellow, IMPRI. We welcome you, ma'am. The distinguished panelists for the session are Professor R.S. Guman, Professor Eminence, Punjab School of Economics, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, visiting Professor IMPRI. Dr. A. Amrindra Reddy, Joint Director, Policy Support Research, National Institute, ICAR, of Biotic Stress Management, visiting Senior Fellow, IMPRI. Next up, we have Mr. Raman Janeulu, GV, Executive Director, Center for Sustainable Agriculture, Telangana. Then we have Professor C.S.C. Shekhar, Professor, Institute of Economic Growth, IEG, New Delhi. Dr. Javed Alam Khan, Senior Fellow, Center for Budget and Governance Accountability, CBGA, visiting Senior Fellow, IMPRI. Professor Gumadi Sridevi, Professor, School of Economics, University of Hyderabad, visiting Professor IMPRI. Professor Anant Kumar, Professor and Head, Rural Management Program, Xavier Institute of Social Services, Ranchi, Jharkhand. Ms. Purvi, Policy Researcher, Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations. We welcome everyone. We look forward to learning from our esteemed gathering. Now, without any further ado, let us begin the program. To begin, we have a brief presentation by Ms. Ria. Can we have the presentation now? Can we have the presentation, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. And today I will be presenting the key highlights of rural development in the Union Budget 2025 and 26. This budget prioritizes agriculture, infrastructure, employment, financial inclusion, and social welfare to drive economic empowerment in rural India. With targeted investments and strategic reforms, the government is aiming to bridge the rural-urban divide, improve livelihoods, and create self-reliant communities. Rural India is home to more than 65% of the country's population, and its development is crucial for national progress. This budget reflects the government vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, ensuring that rural citizens have access to quality education, healthcare, employment, and financial services. The Rural Development Ministry has been allocated 1.88 lakh crore rupees, reflecting an increase of 5.75% from last year. The MG Narega program receives 86,000 crore rupees, ensuring employment generation in rural areas. Additionally, the Jal Jeevan Mission has been extended till 2028 to achieve 100% tap water coverage, benefiting over 15 crore rural households. Furthermore, broadband expansion under the BharatNet project will provide high-speed internet to government secondary schools and rural primary health centers, ensuring better education and healthcare accessibility for millions in villages. Apart from direct allocations, the government is focusing on strengthening digital governance and rural credit systems through public sector banks and India Post Payment Bank to facilitate direct benefit transfers, microfinancing, and financial literacy initiatives. In the third slide, the agriculture remains the backbone of rural India, and this budget brings significant support for farmers. The PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana will develop 100 agri districts to a convergence of existing schemes and new investments to improve farm productivity, irrigation, and storage facilities. Under the PM Kisan scheme, 63,500 crores has been allocated, providing direct income support to 9.5 crore farmers. Meanwhile, 143 million applications have been covered under the crop insurance scheme to ensure resilience against climate risk. The Kisan Credit Card KCC limit has been enhanced from rupees 3 lakh to rupees 5 lakhs, benefiting 7.7 crore farmers. Additionally, a Makhana board in Bihar will provide support to Makhana farmers, improving production, processing, and marketing opportunities. Investments in rural storage and warehousing facilities will reduce post harvest losses and increase farmers' earnings. For the fourth slide, beyond agriculture, employment is a major focus on this budget. The Building Rural Prosperity and Resilience program will support underemployed farmers, rural youth, and women entrepreneurs by integrating technology, skilling, and financial incentives. The Micro Enterprise Credit Card provides rupees 5 lakh in credit, encouraging local businesses. Additionally, the First Time Entrepreneur Scheme will empower SC, ST, and women entrepreneurs with loans up to 2 crore rupees, helping creating sustainable livelihood. The India Post Network with 1.5 lakh post offices will expand services in credit dispersal, insurance, and logistics, positioning itself as a major rural economic hub. More emphasis is being placed on women led enterprises, which will receive additional financial and technical support under the Self Help Group initiative. To enhance social welfare, the Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0 program will improve nutrition for over 8 crore children and 1 crore pregnant women. The PM Nidhi scheme expands microcredit for rural vendors, while a new Gramin credit score framework will improve rural financial access. Additionally, rupees 54,832 crore under PM Awas Yojana Gramin will fund 40 lakh new Pakka houses, and 19,000 crore under the PM Gramin Sadak Yojana will construct 35,000 kilometers of road to enhance connectivity. For the key takeaways, in conclusion, the Union Budget 2025-26 lays a strong foundation for rural transformation with historic investments across agriculture, employment, housing, financial inclusion, and connectivity. This budget recognizes that rural India is the backbone of our nation, and its progress is essential for overall economic growth. The government's vision is to ensure that migration becomes a choice, not a necessity, by enhancing rural infrastructure, expanding credit access, and empowering small businesses and women entrepreneurs. The budget fosters an environment where rural citizens can build secure livelihoods without needing to move to an urban centers. By leveraging a multi-sectoral approach, the budget aligns with the goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat, making rural India self-sufficient, resilient, and a key driver of national progress. Thank you. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you so much, Team IMPRi, for the brief presentation. Now, proceeding further, it is my honor and privilege to invite Dr. J. Dennis Rajakumar to start the program with the chair's opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Arjun, for the invitation. I think this rural realities after every union budget is announced is a show that is being conducted by IMPRi, and this I'm seeing that the kind of participants are becoming more and more broad-based. I wish this will continue in future. And personally, I thank you so much for the invitation to chair this session. Now, we heard a lot of numbers which the team, Dr. Arjun and his team has put up. I will also present a few other macro statistic, just to provide a kind of a scenario in which the budget has been framed, and what it would mean for the rural sector as a whole. Now, if we consider GDP growth rate for the year 2024-25, it is expected to be in the order of 6.4%. I'm referring to real growth rate, which is somehow lower than what is its expected for the year 2023-24 at 8.2%. There is a kind of reduction by about 1.8 percentage points. At the same time, when we look at nominal growth rate, it is expected that in the year 2024-25, GDP would register growth rate would be about 9.7%, which is very marginally higher than what it was recorded in 2023-24. That is 9.6%. So it means there is something happening to the price front, because what we see here, the kind of differences, right? In terms of nominal GDP, we are expecting that this year would be better compared to last year. But in terms of real GDP, this year it's going to be worse than last year, right? Worse in the sense it will be lesser than the last year. So that means there is something happening to the price front. This is a very important thing that we need to keep in our mind. Now, coming to sector-wise growth rate, I'll just single out what we expect from the agriculture. Right here again, we have very interesting story coming up. Agriculture, livestock, forestry, and fishing. In terms of real growth, growth of gross value added, we expect this sector to register growth of 3.8%, which is right somehow far higher than what it was a year ago at 1.4%. That means this sector's growth rate will be higher by 2.4 percentage points compared to 2023-24. This is in terms of real GVA. In terms of nominal GVA, it's again, we expect this to go from 5.4% to 10%. So here again, you see some kind of things happening to the price front. And of all the sectors, right, what are the major sectors, I see only agriculture, livestock, and forestry, which is expected to record higher growth rate than what it was a year ago. And along with this, only public administration is expected to register somewhat a better growth rate compared to the last year. All other sectors, right, like manufacturing, mining and quarrying, construction, all other sectors are expected to perform poorly compared to last year. Now, there are two things, therefore. One is there is something definitely happening at the price front, right? While we are doing better in terms of nominal, but not so much in terms of real sector. There's something happening there. Second one is in terms of sector-wise growth, agriculture and public administration seem to be doing better compared to last year. And though the magnitude of the GVA is different, though the magnitude of growth rate is different and all that, but if you may recall, this is the kind of scenario we felt during the COVID time, which was basically a crisis year. So this leads us to kind of, do a bit of introspection to see whether something is wrong somewhere, right? So other sectors are not doing well. Bulk of the pulse is expected from these two sectors, that is agriculture and public administration. Now, I'll also provide some perspective based on the what's happening to the employment. Now, if you look at labor force participation rate or workers' participation rate, and whatever may be the indicator we consider, if you consider a kind of last 6-7 years trend, starting from, let's say, PLF's first annual report, 2017-18, until the last one, PLF's 2023-24, what we notice in the rural sector is the enormous rise in the labor force participation rate. And this rise is quite intriguing in the sense, somewhere, if you consider LFPR in the all age group, you'll find it has gone up from 37% to 46.8%. This is quite a phenomenal trend. But when we look at male and female, we find that it is the female participation which is actually providing, which is mirroring what we observe at the rural level. And female participation rate has almost doubled from 18.2% to 35.5% in the as per the latest one. Right. Similarly, the same trend you'll also find if you consider WPR. Right. So, which means this employment scenario seemed to be taking well off the ground insofar as the rural sector is concerned. And this kind of trend, we don't, all that easily notice in the case of urban trend. So, but at the same time, when we are looking at the wage rate in the rural segment, I'll just give some numbers based on a recent paper that came in EPW a few months back, right, written by on author called Shyama Jose. What the author has to say here, we are talking about real wage rate. She has noticed that between the period 2019-20 and 2023-24, the real growth rate, average real growth rate of wage rates across various types of occupations, right? All rural occupation, agriculture, farming, non-agriculture occupation, construction, unskilled laborers, across all occupation, the trend is negative. So that means real wage rate, right, in fact, has not grown. So while this sector is expected to provide a kind of impulse to the overall growth, there is a uptick in the employment trend. At the same time, we don't see much things is happening in the rural wages. Now, these things we can place it in the overall context of the budget. Now, the budget has provided closer to, I think, 1.88 trillion or 1,878 billion rupees to Rural Development Ministry, which is higher by 5.5% compared to a year ago, revised estimates. Now, this 5.5% is just enough to beat the inflation. Right. So, whether there is any additional allotment, the allocation of fund that has taken place that would beat the inflation, we don't see it. But there are a lot of other schemes which, as listed by the, as we had seen in some of the earlier slides, right? There are a lot of schemes which are expected to benefit a large number of farmers or rural households, and these numbers are running in crore. You'll find that 1.7 crore, 1.7 crore farmers to benefit, right, and so on. At the same time, while it's a welcome move, there's a lot of new schemes had been evolved with a focus on low productivity districts, with a focus on improving the job opportunities for rural women and youth, with a focus on, providing access to Kisan credit cards and etc. etc. But there is also a cry about the allocation of fund to Narega, right, which is expected to remain unchanged at 86,000 crore. Now, remember, the allocation just beats the inflation. At the same time, there is no discernible increase in the allocation to, there is absolutely no increase in the allocation to the rural employment schemes. Now, I would expect the speakers, while you can focus more on the individual schemes and how they are expected to benefit the rural sector as a whole, you may also consider that there is a kind of growth momentum occurring in the agriculture sector. Therefore, rural sector might do well, and there is also a kind of uptick in the employment trends in the rural sector. But this kind of reluctance to increase the allocation of funds for rural employment schemes. To what extent this is going to, improve the well-being of the rural sector in real sense, right? Probably we can keep some of, after all, budget as a public policy is meant to supply adequate welfare to all, right? Rural mass should not be excluded from that process. So, to what extent we expect the budget will do justice, right? Probably these are the few things we can come up with. Now, we are happy that we have got 8 speakers with us, and I see many of them, I have heard many of them speaking out in some of the earlier sessions also, and in several seminars. It is really nice that we have got well-informed speakers today for our rural realities um, um, show. And to begin with, as it was informed to me by Dr. Arjun, may I now request Professor C.S.C. Shekhar to uh, give your opinion on the budget. Probably, I would expect, as it was informed to us by the organizers, each speaker can take about 8 minutes, and we will have a quick wrap-up round where you can also uh, uh, wrap up whatever you have got to say in about 2 minutes. That we'll have it in round two. Yeah, over to Professor Shekhar.
Thank you, Chair Dr. Rajkumar. Thank you, Dr. Arjun, for giving this opportunity. And also, I'm very glad to see many good names, important names, Professor Guman, and also Dr. Tangaraj, Professor Anand. Good afternoon to everyone. And I have not much to say, in the sense that I'll just focus on the rural economy, in the sense that particularly on the agriculture sector. As I see it, as a rural sector has mainly two important components. One is the economy, the other is the social development part of it. Social development, when I say the water, the health, and sanitation, so on and so forth. So I'll be focusing more on the agriculture part of it. I mean, what is there as far as agriculture is concerned, and how it relates to rural development as a whole. And in that, what are my concerns, what I see as missing from the budget? This is what my talk today is going to be. As the presentation by Ria very succinctly put, there are a few important announcements or initiatives that have been announced in this budget. I will go one by one very quickly. The first one is the Dhandhanya Krishi Yojana, where actually what they're planning is developing 100 agri-districts, which are sort of backward in terms of yield and other parameters. And they plan to improve agricultural productivity, crop diversification, sustainable agriculture practices, and so on and so forth, post-harvest storage, and at the panchayat and block level, irrigation facilities, and long-term and short-term credit. These are the components that the budget envisages. And this program is, it is likely to help around 1.7 crore farmers. This is what the budget says. Then the next important program is building rural prosperity. And in rural prosperity and resilience, what they plan is similarly the same districts will be taken, and they will address underemployment in agriculture through skilling, investment, technology, and invigorating the rural economy. This is what the actually the budget speech says, and also the annexure that is there in the budget document says. But what is missing from this whole thing is, what is the underlying plan, integrated plan? Because agriculture is at the core of rural development strategy. And how exactly is it going to be taken up? In the sense that, is it a district, if you're taking 100 districts, each district, or at least there will be a lot of heterogeneity across these 100 districts. Is there any plan so to say for each district, is a district agricultural plan or rural development plan be prepared for each of these districts? And then that plan will be pursued under these two programs. That is not clear. In fact, this has been the pattern of announcement of programs in the last budgets also. They don't seem to come out of an integrated vision for agriculture and rural development. There are programs that come out in one budget, then the allocations are made in that budget, and in the next budget they drop out. In fact, in the last budget, we have seen that the price stabilization fund had received some 10,000 crores odd. And this budget, it has been drastically slashed. In fact, the reason for such an increase in the last budget and slashing now is not clear. It's not in the same way in these two programs. What I expect the two ministries particularly, because these rural prosperity and resilience is under the rural development ministry, whereas the Prime Minister's Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana presumably falls under the Ministry of Agriculture. So these two ministries have to coordinate and align their priorities, and also they have to evolve an integrated vision, at least for these 100 districts. And for each district, there has to be a detailed agricultural plan in place. Only then I can see this ambitious program, these two ambitious programs actually going forward. Then the next one is basically they have announced a number of programs in case of pulses and for vegetables and fruits, and also on cotton. These three are the major programs that have been announced. In pulses, the budget allocation of 1,000 crores has been made. And the idea is mission for Atmanirbharta in pulses, that is self-reliance or self-sufficiency in pulses. Now, under this program, they plan to cover Tur, Udad, and Masoor. But what is the action plan? So the action plan for attaining this Atmanirbharta is spelled out in Annexure B of the budget, where what they say is development and commercial availability of climate resilient seeds, enhancing protein content, increasing productivity, improving food post-harvest storage and management, and assuring remunerative prices to farmers. I think these are all very laudable objectives, particularly the last one, assuring remunerative prices to farmers. But how is that done is a little tricky. What they say is that NAFED and NCCF will be ready to procure these three pulses, that is Tur, Udad, and Masoor, as much as offered during the next 4 years from the farmers. So that means these agencies will physically procure from the farmers. Now, this is a very, very difficult thing, given the kind of fiscal costs that we are incurring in case of rice and wheat. Already we see the situation in rice and maize. And if there is an open-ended procurement of these three pulses, I don't know how easy it will be for the government to really hold up the prices, how successful they will be. In fact, the better alternative would be to go for some sort of a deficiency payment system, which they have not talked about. And again, this is one issue that is there on the table. It's not clear. And similarly, a comprehensive program for vegetables and fruits with a budgetary allocation of 500 crores has been announced. And here, the idea is to promote production, efficient supplies, processing, and again, remunerative prices for farmers. Now, they say appropriate institutional mechanisms will be developed and farmer producer organizations will be involved in this. I think the devil is in the details. When these guidelines are evolved for these programs, that's when we'll get to know more about these things. But given the track record of government in implementing many of the programs, it looks a little difficult. And one good initiative that they have announced is the Makhana board in Bihar with a budgetary allocation of 100 crores. This was long overdue, I believe. And I think that's a good announcement. And another important announcement is a national mission on high yielding seeds. And that's very good, because the research ecosystem needs to be strengthened. But it's not just actually developing these high yielding varieties, but those high yielding varieties should reach the farmer, and the farmer should be provided the complementary inputs to actually realize that higher yield. So this, unless that is done, this whole it is the whole package is taken care of. I think it leaves a lot to be desired. And mission for cotton productivity with a budgetary allocation of 677 crores is fine. And also it's a 5-year mission to facilitate productivity and sustainability of cotton farming. And more importantly, this is focusing on extra long staple cotton cultivation. This is very important for increasing farmers' income and also steady supply for quality cotton for the traditional textile sector. So this long staple, extra long scale staple cotton variety is very important from that view. And then enhanced credit through KCC. Now the Kisan credit cards scheme, now 3 lakhs to 5 lakhs, the credit availability has been extended from 3 lakhs to 5 lakhs for loans taken through KCC. But there are some studies currently going on which show somewhat discouraging results of the KCC. In fact, there is a lot of leakage in KCC and the KCC funds being transferred to other purposes. And I think this needs to be seen very carefully before, but the enhancement has already been announced, but there needs to be a strict monitoring of the loans that are availed under KCC. The last one is, I think, the India Post as a catalyst for rural economy. This is a good idea because what they plan is the post offices that are there in the entire rural India will be sort of a co-location kind of a hub for all the rural financial services, intermediation, other things. And that I think is a good thing. Now, what's missing from this budget? As I already said, one important thing that is missing is an integrated vision for rural development with agriculture at its core. This is what is basically. So even now, the budgetary exercise seems to focus on agriculture ministry and rural development ministry, and rural development and agriculture as two separate activities and almost mutually exclusive activities. And I think that needs to change. There has to be some integrated vision because there are many programs which actually dovetail well with the agriculture. For example, National Rural Livelihood Mission. So under which the women self-help groups are formed and they take up some economic activities. And if those economic activities are dovetailed with the agricultural production in the area, for example, in a pulses growing area, if you can provide these women the sufficient support to start a dal mill or some such even any other supporting activity to the agriculture, that has a higher likelihood of success. And unfortunately, such an integrated vision somehow is not happening. In fact, if you remember, if we throw back our mind, around 2008-9, the Planning Commission started a similar exercise. District agricultural plans were evolved for almost all the districts of major states. That was a very useful exercise. And during that time, after a few years, the growth actually came from many of the rain-fed districts in the country. It's because of a very detailed and very integrated planning at the district level that was made possible. And a similar vision seems to be missing at present. And one important constraint that the farmers face, particularly in agriculture, is marketing. And marketing, actually, a few years ago in the budget, there was a lot of talk about Gramin rural agricultural markets, GRAMs. And the plan was to develop 25,000 GRAMs all over the country, which are accessible to the farmers. There was a lot of budgetary allocation, and there was also a standing committee of parliament that went into the details of this program. But somehow that program seems to have fallen by the wayside, and there is absolutely no allocation now, and there is no word about how that program is doing. And I think that's a very, very important thing, which can address many of the current farmers' concerns regarding MSP and getting remunerative prices. And many of these things can be addressed through those rural agricultural markets, the grants. And if they can strengthen that network, that will be very good. But unfortunately, that's missing. The marketing focus is completely missing. And the another thing is since agriculture and also rural development are state subjects, there has to be more coordination between center and states. And for to that end, GST Council kind of a body is urgently needed for agriculture and rural development. And these are some of the things that only those can actually transform these ideas and ambitions into reality. With that, I'll stop. I mean, if there are any, just one last word, actually, what Dr. Dennis Rajkumar has said, it's very true. When we look at the budgetary allocations for various ministries which are linked to rural economy, Ministry of Agriculture, Consumer Affairs, Public Distribution, and so on, you will see very nominal increase in the budgetary allocations between the range of 3 to 6%. And that is just sufficient to sort of address the inflation or beat the inflation. And so in real terms, there doesn't appear to be any much increase in the allocations, budgetary allocations. Apart from budgetary allocations, as I mentioned, there are many more things that need to be done to actually realize some of these objectives. With that, I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shekhar. In fact, you had actually highlighted a lot of difficulties in implementing several initiatives which are designed to improve the rural economy. Particularly the absence of integration between the Rural Development Ministry and Agriculture Ministry. I think it is being highlighted by few other scholars also time and again, but somewhere we are missing that. And the marketing thing, we'll come back to that during the question and answer session, but it's an important aspect, which I also noticed that hardly any talk is there, though there has been a lot of groundwork done in the past. Thank you so much, Professor Shekhar. Now we'll move on to Dr. Anand Kumar. Yeah, please.
So, very good afternoon to all my esteemed panelists, experts, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to IMPRi and Dr. Arjun for inviting me in this panel discussion. I'm not an economist, but I'm a social scientist and work in the rural development sector as a professor of rural development at XISS. So I would like to share some of my observation and thoughts on this budget in context of the rural realities. It seems that the budget is very promising, it looks, and there is an increase of 5.75% in this budget. But in reality, you see our inflation is 6%, and there's 5.75% of increase. So in reality, there is no any increase in the agriculture budget. That is one thing we need to understand. That's very, very important, despite the government several comments. Besides that, if you also see the economic survey presented a day before the annual budget, it is making very clear that Indian economy is going through a difficult phase, and I will share some of the stories. And we all are aware that the picture which we are presenting is not what it is. The economic survey also shows a decline in earning of the self-employed in the last 6 years and the decade. And for regular and casual workers, the decline in wage has now for almost decade and more. So, and we need to also see that government is making a lot of promises that they will procure the pulses and all those things are there. But we also need to understand what is happening globally, particularly after the President Trump took over. And so I don't know how the global market will react, and we expect the slower growth in most advanced countries, including China, and exports are unlikely to be the option for reviving the growth. So time will only tell that which direction will go. And we also need to understand that there are a lot of challenges. And even if they see that a lot of challenges were flagged by economic survey, the budget had nothing new to offer either to revive the declining agriculture income or per worker productivity, nor did it allocate enough to revive the non-farm economy. Agriculture was projected as the first priority in the budget, the speech of the finance minister. However, there are no concrete plans offered. As Professor C.S. Sekhar was mentioning very rightly, that there's some problem with the vision because you're planning many things, but how you'll do that, that is a big challenge because in many states, even the higher allocation, the states are not able to spend even the 60% of their budget or 50% of budget in some of the states. So it seems that we have the bulk amount, but these how to expand that, that's one of the issues that's really challenging. Uh, because you see that most of the schemes well talked and announced, but most of these schemes are the previous schemes, not many new schemes have been announced. So most of them are either grand announcements with no actual allocation or a repeat of the existing schemes. And now we need to understand what are the real problems in the rural sector. Like Professor C.S. Sekhar also mentioned, the real issues are related to the market linkages, the storage, processing, and the prices. For that, it's not very clear that how they will do that. So it's not very clear plan is there that how we are going to implement that. And that's very, very important because landhold sizing is going down. So production also is affected by that. But in mostly, if you see in Bihar, Jharkhand, and many other states also, the market is linkages are very, very a big challenge. A government is want to promote makhana and they have uh, created a Makhana vote, which is a welcome decision. But we also need to understand that there's already exists a National Research Center for Makhana at Darbhanga under the NRCM. So rather than strengthening that, having a new board and investing on that, I don't know. Because if you see the NRCM last 5 years, and there is no director for it. So all those things are there that vision-wise also we need to understand that even we are creating all this structure, rather than strengthening the existing structure, why we are creating a duplicate structure and what promises and how it will go, that only the time will tell. If you see that total amount spent by this National Research Center for Makhana at Darbhanga, at the last 5 years has been only 3.5 crores in the last 5 years, 68 lakhs per year. While there are grand announcement of increasing income and productivity in 100 backward districts, the overall budget for agriculture at uh, 1,27,290 crores is less than the revised estimated at 1,31,195 crores. Even if you see the other flagship schemes also, uh, there are certain amounts, but that increase is not going to make a big difference in the rural area. Government is promising and promises earlier also to double the farmers' income in 5 years in 2016. We are in 2025. I don't see at the ground that we are going towards that direction. How this government will do, they are also not very clear about it because unless until you have a very clear path or very plan how to do that, it will be really difficult. It will remain a promise only. The reality is that public investment in agriculture in constant price in 2021 is lower than its level in 2016 and 17. So it seems that it will remain a promise. The other reality about the farmers' income is that it has actually declined during the same period. So that's one of the issues that we don't know how this government is planning to focus that. Besides, if you see that the MG Energy program and other programs also, there are also not significant increase in the budget. So this whole promise of increasing the farmers' income to double, it seems that it's just a promise. And the issue is not just about the rural and agriculture sector and their coordination and alignment between the two line departments, but the political priorities of the government also. If you see the whole budget, The budget is presented, who was in focus? We are saying that our focus is the rural sector. But the budget is very clearly, it's favoring the middle class. And it also has the political priorities of the government. While the crisis in agriculture and rural area has been prolonged and severe, the benefits have been passed on the well-off among the middle class. And see, you have saying that till 8 lakhs, you don't have to pay any money. So all those things are also we need to consider that this promise is there, but we don't see that the real action in budget, real action is not very visible. And this budget is made keeping in mind more of the middle class than the rural people. If you go to the villages, and really the farmers are really in bad shape, because they don't have the money, and even many farmers are saying that we are not able to do agriculture because we are not finding the laborers. The freebies schemes, because of the various freebies schemes, even finding labor in the villages is difficult, or migration and other issues are there. So if you see, it's a very, very complex that what we are promising and how we will achieve it. The other issue is that income transfer to the well-off middle class through tax subsidy is now much larger than the cash transfer given to the farmers. So it is favoring more to the middle class than the farmers. So these are some of the issues which we need to understand, and that how this budget is moved towards. Whereas this agricultural initiatives are concerned, the government 6-year program to boost pulses and cotton production is a strategic move to reduce import dependence. And the strategy agency will procure pulses at guaranteed prices. But again, question is that how you'll do that? The issue of the storage pricing, as I mentioned it earlier. So these are some of the major challenges. Besides that, we also need to understand that not only if we are talking about the rural sector and the rural reality, it is not only the budget and the economics, we need to also be aware of the social sector. In a sense that holistically, if you see, then in villages, it's a rural sector will not go only through the agriculture, what other options you have. There are not many much programs are there. Government is talking about the Jal Jeevan Mission and other things, the more allocations also, as I mentioned earlier. The government is doing allocation, but there is no expenditure. Even this expenditure is there, the benefits of these schemes are not reaching to the people because of lot of corruption or another issues are there. So the real challenge for the government is that how to implement what they are promising. And I don't see a clear path for that the government has, because in many states they are not able to spend that money. So these are some of the issues in the beginning I would like to put forth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Anand. In fact, you have brought out certain new dimensions to the whole panel discussion. When you raise the questions like what is the agriculture income, what is the increase in the per worker income in the non-farm sector, right? And moreover, highlighting the aspects like how the decline in the real wage rates. Right? These are all some important aspects which probably we'll take up. I may have something on that. Right. And also, you're talking about landholding size. And that reminds me of an old debate. And Professor C.S. Anand also, he was just highlighting about it, about those 100 districts which will be picked up on the basis of their productivity, basically low productivity districts. So earlier there used to be debate on land size and productivity. In the wake of contract forming, how relevant that kind of issue one will have to deliberate. We'll come back to those kind of issues maybe a little while later. Now, shall I ask Professor R.S. Gumar, please? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful to the organizers and very good afternoon to the fellow party panelists. Let me say 2-3 things at the very outset. I largely agree with what went before, and what has been said by all the three eminent speakers, Dr. Rajakumar, Professor Shekhar, and Professor Anant Kumar. In fact, when Professor Shekhar says devil is in the details, I think Professor Anant Kumar has also woven his speech around that. And I fully agree with Professor Rajkumar, Dr. Rajkumar, that real wage rate is the issue in the rural areas. Having said that, I would like to share my views on three areas, not going into the details of what there has been. Most of the schemes are in continuation of the earlier years. No doubt in that. I would not go into the micro details of that. But let me say that three things are very important for rural economy and society. What are rural realities? What are the issues and concerns? And what is the budgetary allocation for that? Let me first say that three very important areas or activities having direct bearing on the rural economy are agriculture and allied agricultural activities, rural development, and when I say rural development, it means social and physical infrastructure. Time will not permit me to go into the details, but there is a sea change in the social and physical infrastructure of the towns and cities and the rural area. The third is Mahatma Gandhi Rural National Guarantee Scheme. These three areas, I think, are very, very important from the standpoint of view of the rural economy and society. And let me draw your attention to what is happening and what are the rural realities. The population, about still it is 66%. I'm not aware whether when will the 2021 census will come, but it is around 66%. 70% of the workforce is in the rural areas. And rural share in GDP is around 45-46%. So this is the rural reality in macro terms. Then work population ratio. I'm not going into the details of work participation rate. That is not important for me because the quality of work and the wage rate are very, very serious concern over there. But rural work population, worker population ratio is rural is 62% and urban is 49%. And when we come to the rural male share of employment, above 15 years of age, PS and SS category, rural male 59% are self-employed, regular are just 16%, and casual are 25%. So this is the scenario about rural males. And rural females, 73% are self-employed, 7.8% are regularly wage salaried, and 18.7 is casual. So you can well imagine that this so-called self-employment, how quality is that? That may count the real wage rate is declining or it's stagnant, and the quality of work and the conditions of work are very, very pathetic. Now, predominantly in rural area, what are the concerns then? Again, I will not be able to go into the details, but I'll just enlist the issues. rising rural-urban divide, economic, living standards, social, physical infrastructure, quality of educational services, then quality of health services, absolutely and in comparison to urban area. Then skill gap, employability and employment opportunities. And here AI will also impact the employment. Then shrinking employment in agriculture and very fewer opportunities in non-agriculture. Then employment opportunity in rural non-farm sector are being availed in by urban workers. Non-farm, rural non-farm sector is developing, but employment generation for the rural people is not there. Ramesh Chand's 2017's EPW paper brings out very clearly. Then floating rural population, migration to urban areas, and their contribution to slums and urban poverty also. Disguised unemployment and working poor. This is very important. People are working, but they are poor. So these are the issues. And then let me say, draw your attention that what the budget gives us. But before that, I would like to draw your attention towards what happened to agriculture and non-agriculture sectors over the period of time, say 2011 to 2021. GDP share is just 15% and labor share is 46% in agriculture, and increase in agriculture is just 43%. Increase in agricultural income is just 43% during these 10 years. Non-agriculture income increased by 76.61% during this period. And GDP increased by 70.85% during these 10 years. But agriculture share, how it has fared in the GDP, agriculture share in 2011 to 12, it was 17%, and it dropped down to 14.4% in 2021-22. Non-agriculture share 83% and increased to 86% during the in 2021-22. So this is how agriculture has behaved vis-a-vis non-agriculture sector, and agriculture is the backbone of rural economy. And as regards budgetary allocation, let me draw your attention. Rural development budget, if we compare it with 24-25, it increased from 2,65,808 crore to 2,66,817 crore. That is just 0.38% in the rural development. Then agriculture and allied, it increased from 1,46,819 crore to 1,71,437 crore. So budgetary allocation is higher as compared to 2024 by 17%, but let's see what will come in the reality. Then MSP and this marketing and the debt remission, which are the farmers' two very important problems. No mention has been made in the budget, and no special proposal for crop diversification. No pulses oil seeds has been referred, but I think Punjab, Haryana particularly needed a package, special package for crop diversification, because Punjab particularly is going to face a very, very serious water crisis in the times to come, and it may impact the food security of the nation. So I think when these are the situations, then we must focus on, we take stock of the situation. And if we talk of Manrega, it is something which is, I think, the government is pursuing under compulsion. Had there been choice, it should have been bounded up. The figure 3 years allocation to Manrega is just 86,000 rupees, 86,000 crore. Even now, it is allocation is 86,000 crore. In the nominal sense, there is no increase in the budgetary allocation, but in the real sense, there is decline in the budgetary allocation. And we must note that this is demand-driven program. And when demand is depressed, the allocation goes down, and there is a deficit of the previous years also. So I think on all the three counts, that is agriculture, rural development, and Manrega, I think on all the three counts, as Professor Shikhar probably said, that no integrated mission of rural development is there. And to wind up, I would like to say that this government, rather earlier also, particularly this government over the last 10, 12, 10, more than 10 years, has not been able to address the issue of employment, particularly rural employment, and particularly that of working poor. And this even of the economy as a whole, that we are saying that it will raise our status to developed country. Probably in terms of GDP, we may acquire that third largest economy, but in terms of developed economy, as per World Bank classification, we'll have to go far way into that. So with this, I would like to say that if we are really concerned with the and we must note that without rural development, without rural economies potential to development, this country cannot grow as cannot enter into the band of developed countries in terms of per capita income and the what we call standard of living and all that. So I think rural economy will have to be focus of the government, and in real terms, it will have to deliver. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor. And especially pointing out to the state-specific requirements. You drew our attention to the need of Punjab and Haryana. It's a new perspective we will be adding to our panel discussion. Thank you so much. Now, can I invite Dr. Ramanjanelu, please?
Yes, sir. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you very much. It's great listening to all the analysis, particularly Dr. Shekhar pointing out the problem that there is no integrated vision. Though Government of India was talking about doubling the farmers' income, never there was a strategy. So from 2014 to today, if you look at incomes have not increased at all. And also in terms of understanding has not changed in the last at least 10 years. Why the incomes are not increasing, and then what are the real crises agriculture is facing is not actually understood. That's one of the reasons you see this year's budget allocations were made very in the same way to do more of the same to achieve a different solution. I think that's where the problem lies. We're trying to do more of the same, but we want a different results to come out, which is not happening. So let me point out my understanding of these things. See, the crisis in agriculture is multifold. The natural resources are depleting significantly. The soils significantly damaged today. On average, every year we are losing about 5,000 metric tons of soil every year. no effort have been made to conserve soil, no investments have been made on that. Groundwater levels are going down significantly and no efforts have been made on that. On the other hand, the entire push is towards high water intensive crops in the country. And whenever we talk about new initiatives into areas of low productivity, say the 100 districts program, my fear is that again they in those 100 districts again the push will be towards high input intensive agriculture rather than moving towards more I would say real sustainable agriculture, because sustainability has become a buzzword. Anyone can use it the way they like. So I think that is a major fear. Money may be invested again to push the same thing, because 20 years back, the earlier government also tried the same thing. They said 100 districts they identified across the country, and the crisis also has increased with that kind of push they had. Also, they had this bringing green revolution to East India. There, in the name of low productivity to increase, there also we have seen the same crisis. So we need to figure out how these 100 districts, what is the action plan, and then how they are going to deal with that. That's one important issue. Second, the problem with farming families itself is that we have on average only 1 hectare of land, and buying new land is next to impossible for any farmer in this country. If you look at last 20 years, the people who are buying land are the non-farmers. They're not the farmers. Non-farmers who are buying the land. So farmers cannot increase their land because the land prices are increasing. Productivity is we can't increase because of the factor productivity going down significantly because of the poor soils. And third important issue is also about the prices cannot be increased also. So in that situation, how do we increase income? Only source is about diversifying the livelihoods and then creating opportunities for that. So we need to invest on that, which is not happening at all. And just look at the PM Kisan when they started. The idea was to compensate for the gap in the income, but nearly 7 8 years back they fixed it as 6,000 per year, and there is no formula. Even today they came out with how this 6,000 will be calculated and how it will be linked to the inflation, which is very critical. And on the on contrary, now they announced the pay commission for employees. So there will be an exercise done across the country. What would be the cost of living? What would be the income which is required? So how do we increase the salaries? But why are we not doing the same thing for farmers? I think that is an important question we all need to ask. There should be a kind of income commission which looks at farmers' incomes and then sets that PM Kisan linked to that as an indicator. We should come up with an indicator to which actually PM Kisan will be tied, the gap in the incomes. So government should make all efforts to increase the income. If there is still a gap, that should be compensated through the PM Kisan. Another important thing in the last several years, government is talking about establishing 10,000 FPOs plus, but all these FPOs are not becoming viable because the access to finance is still a problem. Access to finance has to increase. So we thought there will be an investment fund which will be announced for FPOs, etc., which is not done. So in the absence of significant changes in the way interventions are made, say revising the subsidies in terms of putting them onto supporting farmers who are making transition towards sustainable production. If we just announce a program on natural farming, it is not going to help. We still continue support chemical fertilizers, but we want farmers to make a transition towards natural farming. We want farmers to make a crop diversification in Punjab, Haryana, but the procurement is only done for rice and wheat. So that's where the problem lies. So coming up with better solutions towards that is something which was important, which was expected in the budget, but it didn't happen. Also learning from the experiences across the states. Many states have experimented and came up with new programs and plans. Say Odisha Millet Mission is a great example how state can gear up to promote locally suitable cropping patterns and then create opportunities for the farmers. Andhra Pradesh natural farming is a great example how farmers can be supported towards moving towards natural farming. And similarly, there is a Chhattisgarh initiatives on rural development and agriculture, which really worked well. So when these experiences from the states are coming up, unfortunately, center is still caught up in the same framework thinking. the current modern agriculture will solve the problem. So again, talking about a national mission on seeds is another great example, which shows that they're again trying to look at by supplying seeds, all the problems will be solved, which is not the case. The seed problem today is because the entire public sector seed system moved into hybrids, and hybrids are performing well only in well endowed areas and then good weather conditions. So the risk with hybrids have increased. So in many crops where hybrids are not required, there is no seed system at all. So we need to create an alternate seed system, and that is not the focus of the seed system. This is what I would say. Having said that, some of the initiatives say if used well, and then locally if the states can put in effort, and some can really yield good results. This 100 districts program seems to be interesting. So if there is an integrated approach in terms of looking at livelihoods from all sources, livelihood, so that the incomes can increase, and then creating support systems, probably this can be a good initiative. And yeah, and then the pulses and other things they talked about, but need to see how it goes about. I am not very sure about that. So there's a intentions announced, but action seems to be continuing the same thing, same old thinking. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It appears that you are definitely keeping how the initiatives taken to double the farmers' income, right? Whether they had really yielded the.
They are not yielded, sir. They're certainly not yielded. That's what data is showing. The government's own data is showing that there is no increase in the incomes, and in fact, indebtedness is increasing. And so what do you do? Because see, you cannot increase the land, you cannot increase the productivity, you cannot increase the price. So what is your formula for increasing the income? I think that's a key thing which government should come up with.
So I thought we will flag this issue during our Q&A session, but then I thought at this point of time, you seem to be under the influence of those kind of analysis, whether doubling farmer income had really yielded the original output.
No. See, I work with nearly about 1 lakh farmers in many states. So daily it's my struggle actually how I can use the current programs and schemes to support farmers. And so in day to day, I'm seeing the primary data coming from the farmers. So the choices are not left with the farmers. And every new government initiative is taking away the choice. That's a worry.
Yeah, we'll take it up a little more elaborately little while later.
Yeah.
But the highlighting that fact is very important, I thought.
Right. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Sridevi, are you there? Yeah, over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, a very good evening to all. So, all the panelists have focused mostly on the rural sector with reference to the agriculture. If we actually start talking about the budget discussion, this time the budget discussion started with the three important issues which were existing in the Indian economy. One, with reference to the trade, there is a decline in the exports as well as increase in the import volume. And then because of which the rupee dwindling against the dollar. And the other important issue is the Indian manufacturing growth slowed as a significant contributor factor for the decline in the GDP growth rate. So the economic survey actually opened with the elaborate discussions on the geopolitical and the economic uncertainties that stand as an important reason for the domestic performance. So the declaring growth and along with the high levels of the inflation crossing the projected threshold, neglect of agriculture, and existence of the unemployment in the various sectors, all this led to the kind of sectoral imbalance also. So the previous panelist did mention that the agriculture contributed a larger share in terms of the agriculture GDP to the overall growth. And it was also known fact that investment in R&D, say for example, by 1,000 crores may lead to the much higher returns in terms of the production or the agriculture contribution to the GDP. So the budget by Finance Minister focused on the growth, inclusive development, investment, as well as the main focus was also on the middle class, basically, as the argument is that the richer class is becoming richer day by day, and the poor class are getting the certain kind of benefits from the state in the form of the welfare programs, whereas the left out class is the middle income with a given inflation and the low levels of the unemployment and not much change in the real wages. The aggregate demand has fallen. So with all these, when we look at the impacts, basically I'll be mostly focusing on the budget allocations as well as the impacts on the various programs and women as well as the marginalized groups. So with reference to the agriculture, the long pending issue of the price policy has not been addressed, and the budget overlooks the declining areas and the cereals and the nutri-cereals, because we also see that food and nutrition security are becoming an important issues for majority of the marginalized groups now, with the given levels of the malnutrition as well as the anemia among the females. So the neglect of the price policy, marketing policy, agriculture trade and land quality and the access to the irrigation has undoubtedly come in the way of accelerating the rural growth, which in turn influence the labor force participation also. And also in terms of also in terms of the female employment in the agriculture sector. So the efficiency of irrigation and the and degradation of the land and its preparedness, also in terms of the climate resilience, are essential for the agriculture sector growth. Despite all the constraints given, the agriculture sector is the second most contributor sector through aggregate growth of the economy. So it in a way says that in terms of the employment, especially female employment, agriculture sector contributes to a larger extent in terms of the women empowerment as well as in terms of the food and nutrition security. So what exactly happened to the gender budgeting in the current budget, and what is the impact on the quotient 2.0 or the other programs of the welfare programs, basically, is what I'll be trying to look at. So the budget for Anganwadi and quotient 2.0, if we look at in absolute numbers, it has increased from the 21,960 crores to 21,809.64 crores for 2023-24. But the rise is, if you look in terms of the growth rates, is much smaller. Most importantly, the salaries for the Anganwadi workers and the helpers, and it is also clear from the existing secondary level sources of the data and the primary studies that most of the Anganwadis do not have the required staff to perform the better way. So the budget doesn't include those constraints when we are talking about the zero hunger by 2030, or the main aim of the budget, what the finance minister says is that that budget aligns with the broader goal of the Viksit Bharat of the 2047. So we actually neglect the most important components of the child nutritional security. As if we look at the numbers, 10 crore beneficiaries, of which 8 crore are the children and 2 crore are the pregnant women and the lactating mothers, who are receiving almost 300 days support in terms of the nutritional supplements or various other programs under Portion 2.0. The current data very clearly shows that 37% of the children, or in other way, 6 crores, are stunted, and nearly 8.8 lakh children die every year in India because of the nutritional insecurity or various other health related issues. So in this context, it's very essential to look at the budget allocation for the various social support programs, and especially meeting its gender goals and the women empowerment. Because as already the other panelist has already mentioned, the rural real wages are stagnant. The budget has not focused on the women and the marginalized societies, though there have been some positive announcements in the budget, but 70% of the women is what the aim is, to bring them to the labor force participation or to the labor market. But currently only 40.3% are what actually participating in the labor force, when we compare it with the men at 73%. So if we look at the women coming from the marginalized group, 5 lakh women belonging to SC and ST will maybe benefiting if the implementation of the program is successful, because all the budget talks about the first time entrepreneurship is what as the current stand-up program, but it doesn't talk about any modalities of the program. But this particular allocation aims for the marginalized group of female. So allocation for the ministries for the marginalized groups, also the Ministry of the Tribal Affairs, the Social Justice and the empowerment of people with the disabilities, have seen less than less than 15%, especially Ministry of the Tribal Affairs 14%, and the Social Justice and the empowerment of people with the disabilities have seen less than 5% increase. And the more troublesome trend, however, is that the lower utilization of the allocated budget itself from these ministries, which is actually a larger question towards the implementation of the various programs. So the actual expenditure by the ministries is lower than the budget estimates. So in that context, it is very essential that do the allocations actually reach to the desired groups, how successful the implementation of these programs. The gender budget statement has increased as a percentage to the total union budget, but that is most importantly in the gender budgeting under Group B, because they have included the new program, inclusion of the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana in that particular program, which was not reported in GBS earlier. So the allocation towards the Part A of the gender budget has declined from last budget session. This decline is due to decline in the PM Awas Yojana for the urban areas and LPG connection for poor household, which are reported in the Part A of the gender budgeting statements. So the gender budgeting main aim is for the empowerment of the women, also the empowerment of the women coming from the marginalized groups. But the allocation of the budget and the expenditure doesn't prove that actually we are moving towards the empowerment of the women, because there is a huge gap. The government also.
Dr. Sridevi,
Yeah.
you may have to wind up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in that context, it is important that to be having inclusive policies and allocate for the empowerment of the women and the marginalized communities, not only for achieving the so-called sustainable development goals, or what the budget calls it as the inclusive policy, or the goals and the objective of the achieving the Viksit Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sridevi, particularly drawing our attention to low utilization of fund allotted versus need for the same. Is there any leakage, or is there any fault in the execution? These are some questions. I think even Professor Shekhar also raised it at some point, right? And also that nutrition security, right? To what extent is being neglected? That is also an important aspect we need to consider, because anything that happens to social sector, particularly the what you call household social consumption, especially health sector, right? If out-of-pocket expenditure increases, then definitely their income, right, remaining portion of their income to spend on other commodities, including education, will be bare minimum. So this is one aspect which we have to keep in mind while talking about rural sector per se. Now, thank you so much, Doctor. We'll move on to the next speaker. Miss Purvi, you are there? Purvi Tangaraj?
Yeah, hello.
Yes. Yeah. Please
Yeah,
go.
good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin by thanking.
Sorry, we are slightly running short of time. So please.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. Yeah, I'd like to thank the organizers, IMPRi and Dr. Arjun Kumar, for organizing this session and inviting me to be a part of this discussion with such a distinguished panel. And so I think a lot of the points that I would like to talk about have been addressed sort of here and there. I'll like to focus on the rural agri space. Since, of course, almost 2/3 of the population of India is rural, and within that, we know that the workforce population for agriculture is 46% in 23-4. And there is, as we've mentioned before, like I'm not going to go into the details of how much budget expenditures happened, what are the new programs that were increased, but I would just like to mention that this budget, there was an expectation for there to be some really bold reforms and like newer initiatives, but as we've talked about, there was nothing significantly increasing in terms of the budgetary allocations, nor was there a lot of new integrated sort of approaches that were announced as well, which we've also, which Professor Shekhar and others have also mentioned about. But moving on, so in terms of the rural agri space, the primary ministries or policies or schemes that are part of it would be, say, obviously the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Animal Husbandry. Then we looked at a Ministry of Rural Development, food subsidy and fertilizer subsidy, which I would, in my opinion, would consider to be the primary aspects within this agri-rural space. And it would be interesting to note that the allocation of, say, all of these ministries and maybe just 2/3 of the food subsidy would account for 6.6 trillion of the 6.6 trillion trillion INR of the budget, which is 13% of the total budget of 50.6 trillion. But however, within this, we can see that there is a lot of skewed support. Say the budget of food subsidy and fertilizer subsidy individually are much higher than the Ministry of Agriculture's subsidy. And another thing that we talked about, that there is no integrated approach, that they're all part of the agriculture and the rural sector, but but they're all coming from different ministries, being done by different ministers and sectors, and they all have each of their own assessment mechanism. So that it's not that they're all like us sitting in a room and discussing what really needs to be done, say in terms of doubling farmers' income or increasing wage rate, which is in reality decreasing. Like real wage rate has decreased 0.03%. And so there is no as to say focused approach towards these things. And one of the biggest most important things that in my belief for moving away from this would be towards focusing on rationalizing these subsidies first, because they are obviously larger in number. And though we say that multidimensional poverty has been reducing and has reduced, but we still continue to give food subsidy to the same number of people. And though it is a consumer subsidy, the cropping patterns of most states are influenced by the food subsidy. And like Dr. Ghuman had also mentioned, that particularly Punjab, Haryana, and have faced the brunt of these problems in terms of the natural resources. And despite and then they continue to have the highest number of procurement from those particular states. So there needs to be a way to look after their natural resources, but also try to meet the food and nutritional security that we're talking about, because primarily we are focusing on rice and wheat. Though there are newer programs that are there for pulses, vegetables that are being introduced, there is no as obviously it's just introduced now, so we don't also know what all will be included within them, how the mechanism of the procurement or any of those things for these particular new schemes function. And another thing in terms of fertilizer subsidy, the government announced PM Pranam, which was to include and if the states were reducing their consumption, that the fertilizer subsidy savings would be given, like 50% of that would be given to the states. Though it has been introduced a few years back, there has been no update on it. What are the states doing? Is there any decrease in the fertilizer consumption? What is happening is still a mystery. And what is the process for all of those things? Though they have mentioned how the money will be given to the states and for what purposes the states must be using them, but right as of now there is no update on these particular things. Lastly, as Professor Sridevi also mentioned, that R&D is important, and that say the returns to investment in agriculture research have higher marginal returns in comparison to say obviously fertilizer subsidy, power subsidy, education, roads, etc. There has been no increase in the budget marginal increase in the budget for agri R&D. Within agriculture R&D also, there is a clear skewed approach, that the R&D expenditures are going primarily to the crop sector. Say within ICAR, there are majorly 8 divisions that they talk about: crop, horticulture, livestock, fisheries, NRM, agriculture, engineering, education, extension, and others. But within that also, the crop sector has the highest expenditure. But we've seen that the growth rate of each of these sectors individually, fisheries has the highest CAGR of 8.7%, followed by livestock, meat, condiments and spices, while cereals all crops account for only 2.1%. The share of R&D for crop sector is 26%. So in terms of the returns that they're getting is not, or the value of output that they are providing from these sectors, from the crop sector, is not commensurate with, the expenditure of R&D that is going towards the crop sector. And apart from just investing in R&D, there always has been focus on climate resilience and all the developing new varieties, new high yielding climate resilient varieties. But again, it is just research that is there in the lab. Only once those said varieties are brought to the land, given to farmers, there's capacity building, there's extension activity, there's education activities for those crops and the farming patterns that ICAR develops, or even all agriculture universities develop, there will be no clear impact that we can see of agriculture research. Ultimately, like we've heard, that natural resources are depleting, but also climate resilience and climate change impacts are going to be seen the most in the rural India, which are the most vulnerable to this. There has been a lot of studies and estimates that in terms of just natural resources that are being depleted, the hydrometeorological calamities like rainfall, floods, etc., have damaged India's cropped area, say approximately 33.9 million hectares, according to Ministry of Agriculture, between 2015 to 16. And then, so there is a need to consider even climate resilience in the policies and the schemes that we're doing. And so again, even Ministry of Environment is a separate, ministry. So there needs to be, though there is NICRA for within the Ministry of Agriculture, there is no, dovetailing between all the ministries and all the departments that are particularly working towards, achieving the common goal. And yeah, apart from that, that within crop climate resilience, there are certain types of crops that are more vulnerable to climate change versus some other crops. According to SAS, it was reported that, say, in paddy, there was 73% of the crops were, farmers experienced a crop loss due to climate and other natural causes, while it may be quite less, say 34% for rapeseed and mustard. So there needs to be crop specific, district specific, agroclimatic zone specific R&D work that needs to be done. This obviously needs to be done with KVKs and SAUs, state agriculture universities that are there, working along with, of course, ICAR, and under the bigger realm of the Ministry of Agriculture, of course. Yeah, with this, I'd like to conclude my
Thank you. Thank you. It's a general saying that we are less prepared to face the consequences of climate change. And what you are highlighting is this budget has no provision for that as well, right? Anyway, bringing some new dimension to our discussion is always welcome. Now, I think we have the last speaker, Dr. Javed. Yeah, over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Thank you so much.
we are running
Yeah.
short of time, so we'll
Yeah. So I'll
Thank
be
you.
very quick.
Yeah.
I'll be very quick. So when we talk about the budget, basically, we should also see the budget processes as well. So in the budget processes, usually we follow even now not the incremental budgeting, and we don't consider the inflation. But whatever problem we were sharing, that should be part of in the budget making processes. Usually we don't do the need assessment. We don't have very rigorous planning and inclusive and participatory planning. So our budget making process is not reflecting the real need of the any sector or section of the population or region. So with that, I will focus more on the some kind of revenue side, that we don't have much fiscal space as well, because if we see the public spending, so if we compare it with the previous year, so it has declined basically. Last year we have the fiscal space for around 14.8%. Now we have 14.2%. So ultimately, it is going to affect all the sectors of the budget. And as far as the rural development and agriculture is concerned, yes, of course, we have not considered the real problem, which is very highlighted, like declining in the real wages, and also the unemployment issue and very poor quality of employment as well. So these two areas, agriculture and rural development, should have been given more priority. But here, I would like to focus on some, specific issues with regard to Manrega and NRLM. These are the two important, schemes, but everybody has discussed about it. But I would like to, mention here that I was going through the departmentally related standing committee report. So we have even huge problem with regard to, pending wages, and also the wages are not getting increased. Even there are states who are paying 250 rupees. So these are the major challenge, and number of days are also declining. And these things should have been considered before the budget allocation. Likewise, NRLM, which is a very important scheme for rural areas to provide the self employment, but still we allocate the same amount. And uh, this scheme is also based on the loans, with along with some subsidies, but the other factors are not being considered, like training and technology, then marketing aspects. So these are the very important issues which are still not considered. And also mm, three schemes which are part of the National Social Assistance Program. We call it old age pension scheme, then disability pension, and widow pension. It is very strange that we are going to claim that we will become the developed country, but still we are paying 2 to 300 per month for these groups, and they are very much vulnerable. So, and this has been, been demanded by several society organizations, and even, media has highlighted this issue. But still, the unit cost for of the services are very low. And whatever, social sector schemes we have mentioned, in the panel, we claim that we have frontline workers, but they are getting very minimal, on Darium, not even equivalent to minimum wage rate. So these are the very important issue. If we are thinking to provide quality services, then we need to pay them well, but it is not happening. And for employment, we have Manrega and NRLM, but we have a ministry of MSME. And recently, I was just going through the budget of the MSME. It's a very crucial sector, but the government has not focused on this ministry as well. And the budget is, same, just 200-300 increase. And this sector is very important in the current situation, because it contributes a lot to the GDP, around 27%. It is very much crucial for the manufacturing sector, because its contribution is 36%. It is very much important, because it is the next to the agriculture to provide the employment. And also its contribution in exports is very significant, like around 45%. So anyway, I would say that the budget allocation is one of the important thing, but our absorption capacity is very poor. So I do lot of research at the district level spending, and I find that gradually our capacity is decreasing, and it's a very systemic problem. We need to spend enough to, strengthen the capacity of the absorptions of the funds. And also the convergence is very important thing, even between the department and ministries, but between the center and state, which is, we see that it is not improving. I have been in this area of, working public finance, budget, and, did lots of studies at the ground level during last, 15 to 20 years. But it's very, unfortunate and sad that uh, systemic, capacities are day by day eroding. So these are the major areas in which we need to focus so that we can get some good result. Otherwise, situations will not improve much in the coming days. So I'll stop here. Thank you so much, because we have very short time. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was brief but very pointed. Yeah, your point on capacity to absorb the funds allotted, that's well taken. I think some of the previous speakers also talked about the gap between the allocation and utilization. Now, I don't know what's your thoughts on capacity to absorb the funds allotted. Are we targeting, do we have a wrong target so that the absorption capacity of that segment is too low, resulting in very low utilization, or are we having the right target? Right target, like what she was talking about, low utilization, and she highlighted the health issues, right, pressing especially among the mass in the rural sector. Right. At the same time, there is a need, but there is a low utilization. So what is wrong there? Are we talking about capacity to absorb the fund, or are we missing something? These are few things we can take up in the question and answer sessions. Now we may have another 10 minutes to in our question and answer session. I have a question for all the speakers, or anyone can come in. See, there were a lot of talks about doubling farmers' income. Right? It was a kind of buzzword in of the government for quite some time. Now, what is the lessons we can learn out of it? Right. I know some speakers spoke about it. They had indirectly hinted something on that. But is there anything that we learn out of this that has got some relevance insofar as the present budget is concerned? Because there is also, again, a lot of announcements being made. Right. Dr. Shekhar, you have any thought on this? Yes, sir. Yes, Professor.
Mute. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, the doubling farmers' income, those intentions were never backed with any kind of an action plan. For example, what I mean is, what are the ways in which you can increase any person's income? It has to be either through increasing the productivity and reducing the cost. That's the best thing. Or you also increase the output in the sense that on price. So here we have excessively focused uh, on price in agriculture. Whether it is MSP, first we were talking about, we have followed MSP for a long time. And then we thought of getting the market mechanism into place so that ENAM thing came out. And then when it didn't work out, then we went back to what is called a direct benefit transfer, which is PM Kisan. So the focus in the sense that it seems that price is used as an instrument for income, which is not going to work. Price is basically for resource allocation. So income has to be something more than that. It has to, so that as long as we use price policy to transfer incomes, it's never going to work. That's my view. And there has to be more thinking on this. Otherwise, it's not going to work this way.
Yes, any other speaker would like to comment on this? Yeah. Any other question? Anyone else?
Let me
Yes, sir.
say. In fact, my take on this is that doubling farmer income or increasing farmers' income is good, but probably it is not possible within the agriculture sector alone. That is the lesson we must learn from it, and that if we really want to raise the farmers' income, we'll have to go beyond agriculture. It may be agriculture plus, or it may be the part-time farming, because given the 86% small farmers and very small size of holding, it is just not possible. Uh, uh, Either within productivity as well as the other things which may lead to doubling farmers' income. And secondly, inflation factor will have to be factored in whenever we talk of doubling or tripling farmers' income. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other question? Yeah, there is one question from the audience. Yeah, first part is her opinion. The second one is what I'll just paraphrase it. What can be done to arrest the migration of youths from Nepal so as to improve their engagement in agriculture and allied business back in their home? Yeah, that's a kind of question. Is there anyone would like to comment on this? Yeah,
Yeah, please.
yeah. Just my thought on this question is when we talk about migration, there are both pull and push factors. And these days, what we observe is quality of employment, right? For the same job, when quality of employment, that's because of generally youth feel that getting engaged in the traditional jobs i- is not considered as a kind of viable option for their career, and therefore they look up for better quality job. And the urban centers or some other sectors, whichever offers there, they are ready to migrate out. At the same time, there is another aspect to this. We have seen several migrant laborers from some important states in the country with high per capita income who may not mind doing a kind of menial job outside the state, but they are not willing to do it in their respective state. Now, this is a kind of a situation we also face with respect to labor migration. One is quality, right? That is purely a kind of pull factor, but at the same time, how do you explain a worker unwilling to do menial job in their home state, but ready to perform the same task outside the state, right? So we are having this kind of situation. So this is something, if agriculture can be made more lucrative, then the youths might stick to that as a kind of profession, right? So long as that sector remains not very attractive from the employment point of view, then it might, may not be able to attract the youth, and therefore Nepal will continue to send out the to other places. I don't know what is others' views on this question.
I would like to say that we have done some studies over here in Punjab. 80% of Punjab farmers do not want to keep their children in agriculture. So that is an indication. Late some years back, NSSO study also says that a report says that 40% of the farmers do not want to be in agriculture given the option. So this means agriculture is not attracting or lucrative for youth. One. Second, it can be youth can be retained in agriculture if there is agri processing, and that too through cooperatives. That is one way with which we can keep youth in agriculture. Otherwise, It's just not possible that given the state of agriculture, given the kind of profitability and income in agriculture, I don't think youth will be interested in agriculture. Thank you.
Sir, can I have a point? Actually, this is not a problem of Nepal, but recently I conducted a training of around 40 gram panchayat. And like when I interacted with them about their major problem, they mentioned that that is the migration from their villages to the cities. And they are still like asking the question that given the power to the panchayati raj system, what we can do you have any idea how like we can stop this migration? So I shared with them that yeah, like agriculture is there, but there is a like need for something non-farm activity. And MSME like can be promoted in the villages, but they don't have any idea about the MSME schemes actually. So, like, as I mentioned that Panchayati Raj institutions are very important, and they should be given, some resources, some capacities, and they could be the one of the, driving force behind the creation of employment in the villages. What I think. And one more thing that it is not the problem of the nowadays, but even I am from a farming family, and my father used to say me that please don't come back, please don't come back. So like this problem was there earlier as well, like 20 days years ago, even 30 days years ago. So, but it is increasing day by day. That is, like the reality. So,
Probably that sector is lacking incentive, like rate of return, right? Maybe it's a larger question. It's a larger question. Yes. Now, is there any other question? If
No,
no question, yeah.
I thought I'll just extend that. If you look at between 1991 and 2011 population census, we have seen that 5 million cultivators have actually preferred to leave their profession, and significant amount of land has actually moved to the non-agricultural activities. So that is the one reason, especially in coastal Andhra districts or the Telangana, we find that the cost of production has also increased drastically in last few years, and farmers do not see it as a profitable agricultural activity. So there is a need for the capital formation, public capital formation in the agriculture sector, as well as alternative employment opportunities also in the rural areas.
It's not only the traditional crop sector, even when you look at commercial sector, right? Commercial crops like rubber, for instance, in Kerala. I don't know what is the next generation of those rubber growers, landed rubber growers. Their kids are going to do. Right. I see many of them moving out of their native places, right, in search of better jobs. And second one is that look at the rubber, tappers, who tap the latex, right? Their kids are also equally educated and they're also moving out. Now, I have seen in several places in Kerala where these jobs are performed by migrants from the West Bengal or that northeastern place, right? So it is happening that way. So one explanation is the opportunity cost of engaging in with the traditional jobs. That's one. Second one is that the price realization and their expectation, right? There is also a big gap, right? So that actually drives them out of this sector. So it is a question of not only the traditional crop sector, but also it is also becoming an important issue in the commercial crops. I have seen even in the same problem among the coconut growers, right? Though the price has increased, but still the next generation is not picking up the same job, right? Yeah, Dr. G.V. Ramanjan. Yes, sir.
My understanding on this is that see, what is happening is the price realization for farmers is not going to increase. Certainly, is not going to increase because of the systems, the way markets operates. So we need to change the way market operates. I think that is one thing which is important. So strengthening more farmer cooperatives and their federations, which can do the way Amul changed the milk sector. I think we need to move into that way into food sector also, other food crops also. I think it's the first thing we need to do. And towards that, the kind of investments need to be made has to be made. Second, in terms of farmers getting fair market price and the income is not happening anywhere in the world. And that is because of the way the whole market operates. So farmers are compensated for that. In the rest of the world, if you look at, in addition to the price, there are other sources of income farmers gets. So the ecosystem services payments, and then conserving the natural resources, many other sources farmers are paid, and then basic income support. So India should move away from the product-based subsidy system today towards these kind of systems. Say on average, say the incomes of farmers is high in Punjab, but the average subsidy a farmers in Punjab gets, if you calculate, that's much higher. So if you take it out, I think the incomes of Bihar farmers is much better in terms of efficiency compared to a Punjab farmer. Per hectare, it's somewhere around 30,000 rupees. Per household, it's around 30,000 rupees subsidy which Punjab farmer gets. So how are we going to compensate for that? Is the issue. And these are all product-based subsidies. So we need to move away from the product-based subsidies towards more of a livelihood-based subsidies. I think that's what will make the difference in the country. So rethinking on the economic policies is very critical.
But do you have anything of that kind in the budget? That's the point, right?
Nothing at all. That's what I told right in the beginning. We are trying to do more of the same. So we are trying to solve new age problems with the old age systems. I think that is a problem. Yeah, I think we need to move. That's a fundamental shift which is required.
We need to also move forward because it's already 5 o'clock. Now, is there anyone would like to have a kind of, 1 minute say on the budget? Yes.
Sir, there is one more question in the Q&A box.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
there's one more question.
Yeah, it is from Nihalika Yadav. She
Debate
wants
regarding MSP legalization. Yeah, the question is kindly throw some light on the debate regarding MSP legalization. Thank you.
May I?
Yes.
In fact, we have done some work, and if we go back to 2018-19, there is one book came out in 2023 by Mr. Garg, who was then the finance secretary. And when he was asked what will be the additional cost if government of India asked, what will be the additional cost if A2 plus FL into that 50% is given, then the cost was worked out 35,000 crore along with the chief economic advisor's input. Now, my take on this is that even if there are so many misinformations about legalizing MSP. There was a figure that 14 lakh crore will be the union budget for legalizing. This is probably, even if 14 lakh crore is not the total amount of marketing amount of total 23 crops. So I think government is not going to procure all the 23 crops at MSP. Something is already being procured by private traders, even maybe at below MSP. But government is to take care of. MSP is a reference price, floor price, or benchmark, and it can be done if there is it doesn't mean that government will have to procure all that. One. Second is government may have a trade-off between what if the government is to procure what is not being procured by the private traders at market price. That is one figure. Second is the government is to pay the price difference. Then that can be trade-off, and that amount has been worked out by some associations that it comes out to be 1,62,000 crore per annum additional, even if they gave a C2 plus 50%. So I think it is a question which must be taken, and even the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Agriculture has recommended that MSP should be done. Legal state should be given legal status. So I think the government must give a serious thought to it rather than projecting that on the basis of 14 lakh crore or something like that. That should not be there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Amanja.
So more than the total amount of money required for the legalization, the process of legalization will create a lot of distortion in the cropping patterns in the country. See, currently, if you look at Punjab farmers are the ones who have guaranteed price and guaranteed procurement, but still they're agitating, right? So my point is, the moment we legalize, the cropping patterns will fundamentally shift towards rice cultivation, because that's where actually the high yield is there and then high price is there. So everybody will shift towards that, and then the distortions will create much more serious crisis. So we need to look at a different model. Price-based approach is not a solution for ensuring incomes for the farmers. That's not the approach. I think Professor C. Shekhar also mentioned that price policy based approach is not a solution.
Can I come in?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I have slight difference of opinion with Professor Guman here, because I myself have worked out these various costs involved. See, what is legalization? Legalization means basically the government is saying that, okay, I'll buy at this particular price. Okay, MSP is suppose 100 rupees, government will have to. So if I am producing 100 kgs, and 100 kgs actually only the government is able to procure, say 10, and the rest is going into the market. So government will be buying at 100 rupees the MSP, but the rest 90 kgs will be sold in the market at a price lower than 100. Then how will I ensure this legal price? Then I'll have to pay the difference in market price and the MSP to the farmer directly. So that is what is called deficiency payment. So once you say I am legalizing the price, then it is your solemn duty to actually undertake to buy it at that price. That means you have to give that price to the farmer. So if you take the recent latest 2020-21 production, we have worked out in fact, the paper has come out in EPW, price or income support. What are the policy options and implications? Price or income support to farmers, policy options and implications. This is a special article which came out in EPW a couple of years back. I'll share with all of you. That was based on.
Please do share. Please do share.
It was based on 2019-20 figures, and recently I have updated it with the latest production figures. The cost comes to anywhere between 4 to 5,000 crores, 4 to 5 lakh crores between. If you cover only 5 cereals, pulses, 4 pulses, and 5 oilseeds. Okay, that is the only.
But talking about something is already being spent by the government on the procurement.
Yeah, that's
so that will be the difference.
Correct.
Not the additional 4 to 5 lakh will not be the additional cost. It will be the total cost.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
whatever is being. So even if you net it out, it comes to around 3 lakh crores.
Second thing, Professor Shekhar, I do not agree with the thing that government will have to procure everything. When the legal price is there, farmers only want that nobody should procure or purchase below that. I don't think private traders will not procure at all. Private traders are procuring, will continue to procure. They also need to have their benefit and to be in the business to increase their profit. So it is not that it's. I think this is debatable issue and should be debated very within very large-heartedly, rather than distortions and other things. Nowhere in the world agriculture. I do agree that price is not the solution. I wrote a paper in EPW in 2015 questioning, is Swaminathan MSP answer or solution to the crisis, or is it can it solve? I wrote. I'll share the paper. Not that price will not do every trick, but price will give some minimum basic assured income to the farmer. I do agree it will not solve the problem. It is not the reason of crisis. It's not the solution of crisis. But something will have to be there.
And another point that I want to add here is legalizing will not solve the problem for the simple reason that we have a legal rights-based system in Manrega. Manrega
Yeah.
actually promises 100 days of employment. And we enacted Manrega in 2007 or 8. And even today, the average number of days is just 50, less than half. Around the national average, the number of days of employment provided under Manrega is 50 days per household. So if that is the case, then how can we actually hope that simply by legalizing a problem will be solved? And also
No,
cannot...
sir. I simply want to say that Manrega as such cannot be compared with the legal MSP. Legal MSP means a reference price or floor price. Manrega is entirely the responsibility of the government and responsibility of the state governments, and how state governments respond to that. But this is not the case here.
So then the point comes, if the state is giving an MSP commitment, if it is legalizing MSP, then it should be state's duty to adhere to that commitment. They cannot and should not force the private market to adhere to that.
No. I agree.
How can you force the market to do that?
I agree. State cannot force the private trader to procure, but state can force. If at all they are to procure, they will have to procure at the legal MSP. That state can ensure that.
Yes.
And
so then effectively what it will do is market will stay away, then the private trade will stay away. It will fall on the government.
Private traders
see, it is highly a debatable.
all the time.
Yes, sir.
All the
It is
time.
highly a debatable point, because still, as an economist, all of us have to understand a lot insofar as price discovery is concerned. Right. So the debate will go on, but the point is well taken. The farmers are in need of some base price. So what can we do about it? Because that is one sector which has got larger employment in the country. At the same time, that sector lacks incentive. Right. But that is even when we consider from the national food security point of view, or Sridevi was talking on nutrition security point of view, right, or improving the rural livelihood point of view, agriculture is a sector that cries for a lot of solutions. So can we look at some base price so that the farmers are assured of some incentive to stick to that, right? So it's a larger thing, and as economist, as I said, right, price discovery is something that we need to understand a lot. Right, that too, when it has got increased participation of corporate guys who are procuring, and they are actually bypassing a lot of commission agents and developing direct contacts with the farmers. So how do you ensure that minimum welfare even in this kind of emerging situation? So these are all broader questions one can contemplate. I'm sure Dr. Anand, Arjun will organize another panel discussion centered around this theme, and it will be nice to see a panel discussion on this. Is there anything? May I now invite any speaker who would like to say anything as a matter of concluding remarks from your side? Anyone? We have already exceeded by 15 minutes. So I'll straight away go to a closing uh, closing part. As I said, agriculture and its allied activities, they are going to feed the economy if at all that some of these growth figures are have any kind of revelation. This is the sector which is expected to perform better than what I did a year ago, along with public administration. It actually is some scenario which we had witnessed during the crisis year. Does it mean that economy is going to go through different uh, circumstance in the years to come? And what do we have in the budget? All of us conclude that there may be more, but all depends upon the way they will be executed. But where we are remaining very pessimistic is whether the budget will provide any kind of panacea to the kind of decline we are seeing in the rural wage rates, real wage rates. Now, we may not have much coming from this budget. But let's see, maybe after 1 year when we regather, we'll see what has happened. Thank you so much. It has been very illuminating listening to all of you. Thank you so much. Now I'll hand it over to the organizer.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for this a very deliberative session. And before we proceed to the formal word of thanks, we would like to present a short video by Professor A. Amrendra Reddy showing his insights on the budget. Can we have the video, please?
First of all, I thank Arjun and colleagues in this organization for inviting me to this very important session because rural prosperity is very, very, very important, because we all know the income gaps between rural and urban areas is increasing tremendously, and agriculture and non-agriculture gap are also being very, very increasing, and this may lead to so many other socio-economic and all psychological issues, farmers distress, all these things. This is the background, and the gap between our productivity levels and world best productivity levels are huge. That is not even decreasing. That gap is still continuing. The rural women employment, about the employment work participation rate among women is also less, about 30%, whereas world over about nearly 50%. Again, youth unemployment, educated youth unemployment is a bigger problem, because we are educated, many youth are they are completing their BA or MA degrees, but the the equivalent job opportunities are not there for most of these educated youth. Again, there is small and marginal farmers, 1 acre, 2 acre, 3 acres. Even our average holding is about 3 point something acres. Even average holding, that monthly income is just 10,000, 11,000, something like that in constant prices. But if you consider 1 acre, 2 acre small and marginal farmers, still is a big issue. They have to ultimately depend on rural non-farm employment or off-farm employment, which again they are not growing that much fast enough. Again, the landless families, that is also big issue. Tenancy farmers, again a big issue. These structural issues, tenancy farmers, there should be some policies to handle the tenancy issue. Every state nowadays 30-40% of the farmers are tenant farmers. There are many issues. There is no written agreements. So how to handle, how to deal with that type of issues? It's a very simple uh, mechanisms has to be developed, so which are friendly to the owner, landowner, as well as tenant farmers. Those type of things, I think we are not able to see, even since last 20 years, even though tenancy farming is increasing. So this is the context. But one important thing, this identifying 100 districts, PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, 100 districts with low productivity but high potential districts. That's a very good indication, because these are all low productivity, high potential districts are mostly dry lands or mostly rain-fed lands or something like that, where with increased investments, increased infrastructure from seed to the ultimate consumers, these are all backward districts or remote districts but having good potential to increase crop yields. And it's also complementary to the already ongoing national oil seeds mission, because most of the oil seeds are coming from this type of backward districts, and also national pulses mission, Atmanirbhar of pulses. Uh, so this this earlier this is an extension of probably the one district one product program, because that program is running across all 730 districts, 750 districts, because our resources are very limited and we cannot spread our resources thinly, limited resources across all the districts. Probably the government thought like that, then they focus now on these 100 low productive districts, so with high potential, so that concentrate more on these 100 districts, so that the yields and farmers income may be increased in these 100 districts. Our next step will be another 100 districts or something like that. So in addition to these things, one of the important mission is national mission on high yielding seeds. That is very, very important. Okay, except few crops led by the private sector like rice, wheat, or even cotton, chilies, commercial crops. Most of the crops for pulses, mustard, rapeseed, and groundnut, whereas pulses, arhar, and all these, most of the farmers even now they are growing non-descript crops, non-descript varieties. So at least we are having high yielding variety seeds. We have to distribute those high yielding varieties nook and corner of the society, nook and corner of the villages, so that farmers can adopt, because seed is the very, very important factor. Once seed is available, farmers incentivized to use fertilizer, use irrigation, and all these things. If seed is not there, good seed is not there, then farmers may not invest in high yielding varieties or whatever it is. So that is important, and the basic objective is distribution of the seed. Seeds may be available in major suburban or highly developed districts, but most of the neglected districts or backward districts or aspirational districts we call, there the seeds are not available. We have to push more on it. As I mentioned, the oil seeds, we are importing about 60, 50, 60, 55% to 60% of the edible oil consumption importing. So there is a huge potential to increase. Nowadays, lot of new hybrids, high yielding breeds are coming up. They are having much more potential, even doubling the crop yields. That potential is there. Then, of course, because it should be complemented by National Mission on Edible Oils, it should be complemented by the price support. Otherwise, because we are importing, import prices are very, very less, and we are importing palm oil. Palm oil prices are a bit 20%, 30%, even 40, 50% lower than the sunflower oil and all these things. So if we want to grow sunflower oil, groundnut oil, mustard oil, and these farmers invariably have to compete with the edible palm oil, because palm oil will be mixed with other edible oils and they sold in the market. So how to address this issue is a big issue. The production mission should be complemented by the price support or tariff restrictions, so that at least in the medium run these farmers are safeguarded. Some assured procurement has to be taken place, at least in this 100 districts which we are calling. Those districts also potential oil seeds districts. Again, similarly, national mission on pulses Atmanirbharata, because pulses 20 years back we used to import 30 to 40% of our domestic consumption. Again, between 2015, 16 and 17 we almost becoming self-sufficient. That generally we call pulses revolution. But again, with increasing incomes, especially from urban areas, increasing taste towards pulses, and demand is increasing much more when compared to the consumption, when compared to the production. Then that gap again going to 30% this year between demand and supply, and 30% is we are importing. So how to deal this pulses and edible oil seeds deficit in this country? This is a best opportunity to use crop diversification strategies, support to the farmers, whether it's a price support or price deficiency payments, whatever it is mechanism, government has to evolve these mechanisms and support those type of things. So, in addition to all these things, credit support, now the under Kisan credit cards, Government of India increased credit limit from 3 lakhs to 5 lakhs because cost of production is increasing. That's okay. But if there is no increase in crop yields or farmers' income, then it may force farmers to debt trap. So, not only providing credit, but in addition to the credit plus infrastructure support, other subsidies, technological support, agricultural extension is also neglected this budget. Of course, agricultural extension is mainly the state subject, but still Government of India can do some directional policies. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I thank all the panelists once again. Yeah, so now shall we proceed to the formal vote of thanks? Yeah, so as we come to the end of today's discussion, I, Purvi Narayan, researcher at IMPRi, Impact and Policy Research Institute, would like to propose a formal vote of thanks. On behalf of IMPRi, Center for Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies, I would like to thank all of you for attending today's deliberation, a panel discussion on rural realities and Union Budget 2025-26. We are grateful to our chair for the session, Dr. J. Dennis Rajakumar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our esteemed panelist, Professor R.S. Guman, Dr. A. Amrendra Reddy, Mr. Ramanjan Yalujivi, Professor C.S.C. Shekhar, Dr. Javed Alam Khan, Professor Gumadi Devi, and Professor Anand Kumar, and we had Miss Purvi Thangaraja. For taking part in the discussion and enlightening us. We thank all our participants who have raised pertinent questions and actively participated in today's deliberation. We are grateful if you are watching us later on YouTube or listening to us on our various podcasts or reading our publication. We look forward to welcoming you all for our next budget deliberation today at 6:30 p.m. for cities, local governance and Union Budget 2026 and 25. 25 to 26. You may also find more thematic events and book discussions under the IMPRi Web Policy Talk series. We hope you continue to join in future to our IMPRi Web Policy Talk and Web Policy Learning. Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you.